Welcome to Papillion UnScripted. I am Michael Severe, the place to go to hear from people that truly help make Papillion feel like home. We're joined this week by the second in command of the city, Amber Powers, City Administrator. How are you doing?
Hi, doing well, thanks.
Always start the same.
Okay.
What's the job? What does the City Administrator do?
Yep, so I manage the day-to-day operations of the city. There are 14 departments and department heads, and it's my job to make sure that all the decisions that are made throughout the city follow the mission, vision, and values of the mayor and the council. So carrying out what the elected officials have decided for the overall vision of the city.
So you're the boss.
Well,
in many ways, kind of the boss.
I oversee the department heads and what they do. So yeah. I always say the employees are the important ones. I'm not out there with the shovel. I'm not out there, reading to the kids or doing those different things. I just make sure that everything that everybody does is still following, the directives of the elected officials.
Was that more difficult when this building was getting redone and people were in different places other than just being in the same place you are?
Well, not really. It was more of, the schematics.
You were at the church, right?
Yes.
Is that where you were?
So the really difficult parts were more like the meetings and the city council meetings because they're at City Hall. So having to schedule out the landing to hold meetings was difficult, but we already are separated. So we already today have, and prior to the remodel, always had the issue of having different departments in different areas of the city. We've just grown too big. I think maybe 20 years ago, everything was in City Hall, but we've just grown so fast that we already have the challenges of how do you make every department and every employee within every department feel like part of one big picture, one big vision, one big team. And that didn't change. It was just a little different on timing of having to ask permission to have a meeting, Right now there's 3 conference rooms at City Hall. You can always fit a meeting in, but there it was a little harder. But
yeah, you mentioned challenges, and obviously COVID was a challenge for everybody.
Yep.
And that's when you got your promotion too, right? At the same time?
Yep.
What was that like for you, taking on a new job and having to deal with the restrictions and things we were going through?
Right. Yep, that was definitely difficult. And then to add on that, I just became a parent for the first time a couple months before that too. Yeah. So having to refocus work-life balance, what that meant as just having a partner and myself versus having now a family and trying to, and then on top of that I had COVID. And and it did make it difficult, and I think it's still something that I'm trying to adjust to is I had always pictured, being out there and going to all the different buildings, all the different, fire stations, the police station, and just getting in there and getting immersed and being known. And then COVID happens and it makes it a lot more hard, a lot more challenging, because then you have to also respect the safety of everybody else and their comfort levels. So it was definitely a challenge. And then you had the rules always changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so and what federal was saying versus state and trying to find that balance. The most important thing to me during all of that is that the citizens had to know that the city was available and the city was open. So we never shut down the city. We did have to shut down our grand opening for the Papillion landing, which was really unfortunate. So the opening was supposed to be on a Friday, and I think everybody was mandated by the state to shut down, I think, on Wednesday. So that was really unfortunate. But other than that, we always had bodies in the buildings so that the people knew that we were always there. So the operations didn't change. It was just the interaction that had to change. So.
Another big challenge is, and you mentioned it earlier, the city's growth. At the same time, people who live here want that small town feel.
Right.
How do you balance that out with the way it's growing, but at the same time you want to feel like home?
Yep. So I can't do it justice, but Mayor Black, who's just incredible and the best orator I've ever met, says it much better than I could. But it's just always keeping that vision of the city in mind. The decisions that we make, are we keeping the image of community, the downtown, the parades, and those different things that make us special and make us small town? Are we still making sure we're doing that? The snow removal, the 8-hour snow removal, the immediately responding or trying to address an issue within 72 hours. Like those things that we say, this is what makes us feel like a small town. You don't have to wait a week to get a response. You don't have to wait a day to have your snow removed. All those things the decisions that we're making every day, is it keeping that image of small town and what makes us special? Are we promoting that and moving that forward? We know that we can't stop the growth. We know it has to.
You don't want to.
No, we don't. We don't. But it's a balance. How do you balance the growth but not lose your identity? And it's those things. It's those things that make us special and make us feel small town, to keep those in the forefront of every decision that's made throughout the city with every department.
Covering city government for a number of years, it always seemed like the majority of people in charge were older. Their kids were already out of the house. They didn't actually know what the day-to-day parents and people were dealing with. You were a fairly young person, you got young kids. Do you think that helps you to kind of understand what people at Papillion need?
I don't know. I feel like I'm an old soul, but I try. I definitely understand more about why our programs are so special. I mean, you hear about it, but I didn't really understand it till I had kids.
Right.
So I definitely think I understand more about what they want or why they want it, I guess. But I don't know that the age is really a factor much in it, because I think I already had an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I always think back to when I worked in TV, and at the table when you're coming up with stories, you need to have somebody who lives in a certain part of town, who has a certain experience. And I just think that a lot of the people who live here have kids. They know that maybe if you have a kiddie parade at 7 o'clock at night, maybe that's a little too late for the kids. So that's stuff that you can kind of
that's true.
out.
Yeah, I'm really hoping. Hey, let's move that to 6 next year. Let's not. We don't have to move it to Saturday. Let's just not have it at 7 p.m. I don't know if you saw. My daughter was not having it last night. It was just too late. It was
too
past
late for
bedtime.
them.
Yeah, she's 3.
So where were you raised?
I grew up on a farm outside of Mitchell, South Dakota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and which is an hour southwest of Sioux Falls, home of the Colonels. So the world's only corn palace. So
that's what we went there for, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, the tourist trap.
Well, you want to try to hit. We bought one of those Fromer books where it tells you everywhere to go.
Yeah.
And that's right there in the front for South Dakota.
Nope,
so,
that's our identity. So yeah.
That's awesome. What was it like growing up? Did you played sports?
Does it count if you're like on the CD team and you just sit on the bench?
If you play, you play. That's all that matters.
Then technically I played, but I didn't actually play. So no, I loved basketball. I played basketball, but I learned very early on that I was not going to be a basketball player. So I switched to oratory, debate, which I think they call forensics in Nebraska. Yeah. So I did that. I think freshman, sophomore year I dabbled in sports, but I was terrible. So I'm really hoping the kids inherited my husband's athletic abilities and not mine, because I don't have any.
Well, the goal is to have fun, learn coordination, teamwork, all those things.
Right. Well,
you don't have to be Trent. You don't have to be a star.
I know, like playing against K-State players and stuff.
You don't have to do all of that.
No. So, I warmed the bench.
That's fine. Somebody's got to do that too. So then after that, you go to college. What was you chose to go to South Dakota? Why did you choose to go there? Was there a major or something for you?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an attorney, and I was big into, I know, right? I was big into political science. I worked a bunch of campaigns, did the door knocking and the cold calls and all of that. So USD is where you go if you want to be an attorney or if you're into political science. They have the education track and the communications, and then the rival school to the north. They're for your engineers, your farmers, your nurses. So it's basically, because South Dakota is so small, it's like you have to pick your track and then your school defines itself. Plus, I look better in red and white as opposed to blue and yellow. So go Yotes.
Also, art, right? You majored in art?
I did not major in art.
You didn't do any art?
Well, Bachelor of Arts.
Bachelor of Arts.
Yeah,
okay.
it includes political science.
Okay, I thought I saw that you were an art major. I thought it would be kind of cool.
No.
Are you a drawer?
No.
Sometimes the only way to be able to, especially when you have little kids, to keep them engaged when you're at a restaurant or something is to draw. Like have papers and stuff. My wife did the drawing. I can't even draw stick figures.
So no, I can't either. My 3-year-old's a better drawer than me, and all of her people look like spiders, and it's still better than what I draw. So,
really?
Yeah, I'm not creative. No.
So you started off in a pretty small town in Kansas doing this job. What was that transition like, and how did it help you, your first job, for this one?
Yeah, so I love Anthony, and I'm glad that
Anthony,
Kansas, and I'm glad that I went there. If I would have followed my original plan of being an attorney, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity because I wouldn't have graduated college in time for that. And my entire life move forward was because I didn't become an attorney, because I didn't take the LSAT in time, which is a long story. But they told me I had another year of school, and then they told me, oh, nope, you're kicked out. You have too many credits, so you have to graduate. And I didn't have time to take the LSAT.
Wow.
That one decision or that one mistake really changed the trajectory of my life. So I ended up getting my joining the MPA program, the Master of Public Administration program. And because they said, well, sit here for a year, do this for a year, and then next year you can take the LSAT. And then in 3 years, you can have a joint MPA, JD degree, law, and public administration degree. And I said, okay, I'll do that. But that first year, I just fell in love with public administration. So I knew when I made that decision to do public administration and drop back from being an attorney, I knew I wasn't going to stay in South Dakota because there were only at the time, there's a couple more now, but at the time there were only 26 administrators. And they all had great administrators in positions. So I knew I'd be moving when I graduated in 2 years. So, and Kansas has tons of administrators, way more than Nebraska even. There's, a town of 300 has an administrator. Anthony was actually considered a big town with 2,000.
Wow.
When I would go to conferences, it was considered a big town. So I applied there and got that. And then again, that changed my entire life because I gained a lot of experiences, met a lot of incredible people there. It was a small town, but it was very busy because we had this giant oil boom that took over the community for a period of time. It did what they do. It boomed and then busted, but it was very busy in that time. And so I gained a lot of experience dealing with having to make quick decisions on what's best for the community and dealing with a lot of crises and what happens with an oil boom and the negatives of that. So it prepared me for this. So the transition wasn't that difficult, honestly. The biggest thing was there were 4 department heads there, and like I said before, there's 14 here.
Right.
So I wore a lot of hats there, and so it was hard to draw. You're the HR person there. You do the hiring and the firing. You do the legal review, and then you send it to an outside legal counsel to review your work. So it was hard for me to be like, what do you mean I don't draft the law document? What do you mean I don't have to fire this person?
Right.
So it was just adjusting to not having to wear as many hats. So that was the adjustment. But as far as the activity, it wasn't like it was a sleepy town.
Right.
No, so.
Everything you said just now, the thing I take away from that is you miss firing people.
No, not at all.
That's the worst job.
No.
Definitely
And
the
we
worst
don't,
job.
when here's, it's not like that, but
Yeah.
it's just, you don't have to do the stereotypical HR roles here.
A lot of important things in your life. You get kids, husband, great job. But you're also a team owner, which is the most important thing. Tell me about your Packer love.
Well, it's, yes. So I'm a Packers fan because my aunt, she babysat me, and I remember the story so vividly. I was in 5th grade, and she was wearing one of her puffer, back in the 90s, those puffer jackets.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, she was wearing a 49ers puffer jacket, and I didn't know what that was. I asked her, what are 49ers? And she told me it's football, and she explained it. And I said, well, I want to pick a team. And I said, whatever team I pick, I'm going to own it someday. And then, of course, she's like, well, then you have to be a Packers fan because it's the only team owned by the people, not by, the big corporate rich people. Yeah. So in that moment, I became a Packers fan.
Wow.
So, yep. And then now I don't even remember what my favorite color was before that. Now it's green and yellow. I became obsessed. So, yeah. My dog, Curly Lambeau, I have,
really?
My 12-year-old dog, Curly, all my pets are named after Packers. But no, if you're asking like how lucrative it is, it's not that lucrative of an investment.
It's not a big money maker.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah. No. And then they're going to be bad for the next decade, so.
Don't say that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I like Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love's going to be a good quarterback.
You think they'll beat the Saints ever?
You've beaten them before, sure.
Well, I mean now.
The one of the biggest Super Bowl wins you ever had was in the Superdome.
Yeah, I know.
1996. I was there. It was awesome.
I wasn't.
I know. Well, you were only like 4 years old.
No.
Last thing.
I wish.
Last thing. Give me something in Papillion or Sarpy County that you really enjoy doing, whether it's an activity, event, a location. Give me something that you guys like to do.
Well, we like to do a lot of things, but and it's like I said, having kids has changed that.
Sure.
It used to be like checking out all the different exciting places. Now it's doing the exciting events, but. Really, when I think back on why Papillion's special and why I like to do different things, it's really the people. And it's not necessarily a certain event or a certain thing. Obviously, you have like the community events, the Papillion Days, the Winter Wonderland, all those great things. We have all these library programming events. We do all these things with the kids and the public safety, with fire and police. But when you really think back, it's not a particular event or thing. It's really the people. We have incredible staff. That are very dedicated to the community, to the people they're serving, and they put on great programming for for everybody. So I don't know. Is that a cheap answer?
It's called a cop-out.
It's a cop-out, yeah.
But it's well done, though. It's a well-done cop-out.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Professional cop-out.
I can't pick a favorite. It's like you're asking me to pick a favorite child. Who's your favorite son?
My oldest.
Oh.
It's pretty simple.
No.
The other one's crazy.
Oh, yeah, I can't do that. I can't pick a favorite.
Wait till your second child is like 7 or 8 years old, and you'll be like, wow, you're different than the first child.
Like, why'd I have a second?
It's not going to say why, but it's interesting. The second's always interesting.
Yeah, some days it's like, why'd I have a first? So.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
Amber, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for making this happen. Again, join us next time when we speak to someone that helps make Papillion feel like home.